Hey guys, welcome to the Comic Den. I'm your host Ace Knuckles. Today we're going to do our monthly reads for January. Sorry it's been so late. We've just had a lot of crazy stuff going down in our house. So hopefully I can start getting these out, more on time. The next one will come out March 1st ish for all the reads that I had in February. This is just something I'm trying to do so that I can have a scheduled release time for a lot of my content. Right now, my episodes are kind of sporadic. I don't have enough people that we can just do it consistently all the time. But yeah, let's jump in. These are all just going to be alphabetical order, not in any sort of special order as to how much I enjoyed them or anything like that. It's just easier for me because right after this, I'm going to go and I'm going to start bagging and boarding them. So yeah, let's jump right in. First one is going to be Aquaman. It says Aquaman number 43, but this is an entirely new creative team, and I was a little worried about it because I've enjoyed Aquaman so much, and I didn't want to lose the momentum that they had going on. But they did the Drowned Earth, and this picks up right after that. And I'm actually very impressed with it. I'm super happy with the direction that they're going and how everything's kind of coming together. It's been really good. Hold on, I'm gonna move that right there just so I can have a place to put my comics whenever I'm done. Next, we have the Avengers, and this has also been a pretty good surprise. Um, Unfortunately, I can see that they're building to this team, the Avengers, being more involved in the War of Realms. I was hoping it'd be more of a Thor sort of centered thing, but I've seen the covers and it looks like the Avengers are going to be pretty heavily involved, which is fine. I mean, Jason Aaron's writing Thor and the Avengers, so it's the same writing style, it's the same everything. So I think it's good in that sense. And I don't think the story's really going to suffer. It's just been building up in Thor for so long. But I guess this is supposed to be a game changer for Marvel, like even more so than Secret Wars. So it makes sense that they would have the Avengers involved. And this new Avengers team is awesome. I've tried to read the Avengers before, and I just never really got into it. And that could just be because I had just tried to jump in. But yeah, this is probably the best Avengers team I've ever tried to read. So next we have Detective Comics 995 and 996. All of this is building up to um, obviously the big 1000 issue. And it's pretty good. I mean, there's a lot of crazy stuff happening in here. Um, it's somebody's hunting after him. Somebody's trying to make Batman pay by making some dead people look like his parents, by going after Alfred, by just generally killing all of the people that Batman ever knew. And it's just like this giant morphing monster with all of his villains' faces on it. So I'm pretty excited to see where they're going with that. Speaking of Batman, next we have Batman 61 and the annual. And DC has really renewed my hope and renewed my love of annuals. It used to be that I hated them. I hated annuals. It just seemed like they were filler. They didn't have anything to do with anything. But now it's at least the ones in DC are very integral to what's going on in the comic itself. Next, we have Black Road. This was just an indie comic that I had seen on Amazon in like the suggested reads. It was a couple bucks, so I was like, yeah, why not? Ordered it, and I opened it up, and the main character is a Viking named Magnus, which, if you've watched anything on this channel, you know that mine and Chris's character is a Viking named Magnus. So we're a little bit worried until I actually read it. This is not a good book. It's just not. The art's pretty cool. The storyline is pretty cool, but it just jumps and cuts so much that you can't keep up with the story, and it's kind of clunky writing, and it's just not my favorite. Uh, it might be somebody else's favorite, and that's cool. I'd be willing to see if any of you have read it. Then let me know what you think, and let me know why I'm right or why I'm wrong. But yeah, it was rough for me. I had to kind of push myself. Next, we have Vader 23, 24, and 25. And I kind of had all of these sitting because I'd go get comics and I wouldn't make it to these. And so whenever I get new comics, if I haven't read that title, I'll just put them with it. If I've already read that title, it just goes to the back for the next loop around. But these had just been piling up, and whenever I got to issue 25 and they ended it, I was I was really sad because this has been such a fun story to follow. Charles Soule did a good, not good. He did a great job. He did a fantastic job of adding to the Vader mythos, and issue number 25 just kind of blows the lid off of everything you ever knew about Vader in the best way. So, yeah, if you haven't read it yet, I highly suggest picking them up and reading them. We'll also be covering these eventually in my rundown episodes with David Mueller. So, yeah, keep an eye out for that. It'll take a little while because we just finished volume 2, so we still have 3 more volumes before we get there. Next, we have Doomsday Clock, and this is one of those books where 8 issues in, and the story is still developing. But that's not a bad thing. Usually when a story goes this slow, people are like, come on, let's get it over with. Especially when it's been hyped up as much as Doomsday Clock was, as like the end all be all. This was going to explain Rebirth. This was going to fix New 52. So with it having so much hype around it, and then coming out and being so slow, it would have been very easy for fans to be like, this is bullshit. But instead, everybody loves it, and I love it. I mean, it's fantastic storytelling. So you don't get a whole lot of action, but it's building and building and building, and it's building this fascinating take on superheroes around the world, and it's almost a real look into what it would actually be like if superheroes had shown up. And it's almost the fact that Dr. Manhattan showed up is not just changing how things work in the DC universe, but it's almost melding the Watchmen universe, because you can see a lot of the same things happened in the Watchmen that are now happening in the DC universe. So I really want to see how all of this kind of pans out. We've gotten to see very little of Dr. Manhattan. 8 issues in, probably 9. Yeah, I think I read issue 9, maybe? I don't know. But it's the amount of character development. It's almost a comic per character that they're trying to highlight. And then I just have a feeling that the rest of it's going to be insane. Okay, next we have The Flash 61 and 62. And these have been really interesting because they're exploring the new forces, which the ones that I'll be talking about in February just kind of wrapped all that up. But I really like exploring the new aspects of what's going on. And it seems like almost every major title in DC is building to something bigger. So, we had Batman, Detective Comics, which was building towards Doomsday Clock. And then you have Flash, which built to Sanctuary. And then you had, all of the Aquaman built towards Earth Drowned. And now it seems like the Flash might be building up to something more. And with these new forces, the whole landscape could change. And I know that's a way for them to kind of market to say, oh no, this is going to be the big event, but it's working. So they're also showing, DC showing that you can have event after event after event, most of which is actually overlapping one another and happening simultaneously. We had Doomsday Clock, Drowned Earth, Heroes in Crisis, and what was the other one? Oh well. Anyway, you had 4 events happening all at one time, and nobody got event fatigue. So, I mean, that says something about the writing and the quality. It's not just an event for the sake of an event. And I think Marvel could probably learn a little something from that, because they like to have events. I think Marvel, what happens is it starts out as, this is going to be an event to reboot, to relaunch, to renew what's supposed to happen, renew the status quo, kind of condense everything, get rid of the crappy stories, keep the good stories, and then they get through the event and they chicken out. I mean, if anything, Secret Wars would have been the perfect place. You've destroyed the multiverse, you're rebuilding the multiverse, you can literally start from zero. And you say, this story's in, this story's in, this story's in, that one's out. You can pick and choose what you want to be your history at that point. And it was a fantastic story, and Marvel neutered it. They just completely took all impact out of it. You had this big, epic story that had been building and building, and Hickman had been building to it forever. And then it finally gets here. Everybody loves it. And then whenever we're supposed to relaunch, it's just like, oh no, never mind. Everything just went back to normal. I'm like, holy crap, why waste your time then? Why not just do what you were trying to do? Anyway, I'm getting off topic. We still have a long way to go. The next one is Frankenstein. I picked up this trade because it was $6 at my local comic book shop. And it was okay. It's not necessarily something that I'm going to pick up on a monthly basis, which, I mean, they're not even making it anymore. But it was almost like a more cartoony Hellboy. Still kind of the same premise, you can kind of see the same tropes happening. It goes a little quick, but the art in it is just brutal and disgusting and really, really good. And it's got a decent storyline too. I mean, I think whenever you start off with a character that may be relatively unknown, and then you start them in a team, I think that's kind of hard for people to just jump right in. I had no idea anything about Frankenstein. I had no idea about any of these characters in here except for Ray Palmer. And so it took a little bit of catching up. But yeah, it wasn't bad. And for $6, you can't really beat it. Next, we have Gideon Falls, issue 8 and 9. These stories have probably been some of my favorites. And it's just now getting to the point where they're starting to explain things, like what's going on, how are these two worlds colliding. I'm not going to try to give away too much of it, but yeah, it's just now starting to kind of let us peek into the window. And one thing I was very surprised about was that as we start peeking into the window, I don't necessarily want to. I want the mystery to keep going. And usually whenever you're reading comics, you're like, come on, I want to know how everything's resolved. I want to know how it all ends. Well, on this one, you kind of want it to drag out. You want to have more mystery, and you want to have more scary that happens. And some of the stuff that happens in here is super creepy. I still don't fully understand what's going on, so that's, exciting for me. But yeah, they're just giving you tiny little breadcrumbs to follow, and if you're not reading this, go and pick it up because it's fantastic. Next, we have Green Lantern. And again, this is, I said I'd give it a run. I'd give it a test drive. This one was definitely better than the last one. Uh, Again, I don't, I don't know. For one, uh, Hal Jordan shot a bunch of nails into a dude and killed him. But I thought the rings didn't. I don't know. Do the rings allow you to kill people still? I thought they didn't. I thought after um, the War of Light that they kind of fixed that again. Anyway, the art throws me off. Um, Grant Morrison's writing throws me off. I don't. I don't know. I'm probably not going to pick it up after that, and that's real disappointing. Um, because I had gotten super excited when Venditti was doing Green Lantern, and I really enjoyed it. It got me back involved in Green Lantern, and now it's just every time I see it in my poll, I'm just not excited about it anymore. But who knows? I mean, maybe in 3 issues they'll turn it all around and have a great payoff at the end. But as of now, it's not looking like it. Next, we have Heroes in Crisis. And this story has the potential to be one of my favorite stories ever, but it's also teetering on the line of ruining it. There's any. Okay, so Booster Gold's involved. And then if you're reading The Flash, you know that Captain Cold has been talking to Flash about it. And both of those guys are time displaced. And so whenever you bring in time travel and stuff like that, it's dangerous because there's a lot of MacGuffins that can happen in the Flash universe. You know, oh, he time traveled, or oh, he was just stuck in the Speed Force for 12 years. He didn't actually die. And they kind of bring that up in one of the Flash issues of, you know, this has happened to him before, and he was just stuck in the Speed Force, so go find him. So hopefully they don't go that route. I think that'd be too easy. I don't see Tom King doing that, but they have flirted with it. And I'm really hoping that he just writes this. Even if he has to extend it another, 20 comics, I'd rather him do that than just say, oh, time travel solved all the problems that it also caused. So, yeah, just crossing my fingers because this is an amazing story, and as of now, it's absolutely one of my favorites. Next, we have Tony Stark Iron Man, and these covers have been fantastic. There's another one that I'm really excited about. It just came out Wednesday. Yeah, you'll see it. But I'm super excited just for the cover. These covers have been just brutal in how good they are. The story is fantastic too. I was a little worried whenever, again, anytime a creative team changes, I get scared because I don't like the change. But yeah, this has been a very, very good story. And it kind of took a little bit for them to put all the pieces together. But now that they are, and now that we kind of know what's going on in the world of Tony Stark, it's got a lot of potential for character development, which, how do you do character development whenever this character's been around forever? But they're doing it. Yeah, it's just got some pretty big implications, not for the Marvel Universe as a whole, but just for Iron Man in general. Next, we have Justice League Odyssey. And this is one that it's a really good story. I'm kind of lost a little bit, but I think that is how it's supposed to be. These guys showed up in the Ghost Sector, and all of a sudden they're being called old gods, and they haven't explained why yet. So, yeah, just kind of waiting to see how this one turns out. But so far, the writing's really well. The writing's really good. Sorry, um, and yeah, it's an exciting comic. It's a fun comic to read. Whenever you see all these characters that haven't really done well individually come together and make kind of the ragtag group of heroes, and now people are worshiping them. So the whole thing of them going from, relatively unseen or unimportant, or, whenever you bring it kind of in the meta commentary, like very unliked characters, like individually. I don't know about Starfire. I never got into Teen Titans. So I don't know how liked she is by herself. I know with the Teen Titans, very popular. But yeah, to see all these characters kind of come together that couldn't survive on their own is really interesting to see that they come together as a team, and at least I enjoy it. I can't speak to anybody else, but yeah, it's a very fun story. Next, we have Outcast Volume 3. This story is also very interesting, and it's one that by the time I finish reading a volume, it hasn't really answered a whole lot of my questions, but I also think that I need more, which is, how a story's supposed to happen. It seems like it goes by very quick, and it is a story that relies heavily on visuals and less on dialogue. I mean, there is dialogue, but it's not dialogue heavy. There's not a lot of exposition to it. But yeah, every time I finish reading it, I'm like, okay, I needed more. I needed more. And then that leads to me going out and buying volume 4 and 5 and 6 and all these other volumes. So yeah, sign of a good comic. Next, we have Red Hood and the Outlaws, Volume 2. This is probably one of the funnest team-up stories. I knew very little about Red Hood. I knew about Bizarro, but this isn't Bizarro from Bizarro World. This is clone Superman Bizarro. So, yeah, I don't know a whole lot about the history of Bizarro, but I know who he was. And I'd never even heard of Artemis. But yeah, this is a real fun story. It took 2 volumes for them to kind of solidify as a team, which is always nice. That what a lot of these team up stories try to do is just dive in, full on, big action, not explain a whole lot, not give a whole lot of time for character development. But 2 volumes, and we've sort of kind of worked out the issues that Artemis is having. And then I'm sure that we're going to hit on Red Hood and Bizarro too, which, they kind of already have. But yeah, I've watched the Rob Jefferson over at Comics Explained. I've watched his videos on these, and that's what made me get Red Hood and the Outlaws to begin with. So if I've been telling people, because they're like, I don't know where to jump in, I don't know how to get started. Go watch Comics Explained, and pick any character. He has them all sectioned off as like, oh, if you're new to Flash, watch all these. If you're new to Green Lantern, watch all these. If you're new to Wolverine, watch all these. And it really gets you caught up on the history. And he also does a good job of telling you where you can jump on. Because if you're going to get into Wolverine, you don't necessarily want to jump in on Return of Wolverine, because there's a lot of history that you don't know. But you also don't want to go all the way back to the first time Wolverine shows up and try to read through. So you can watch his videos. He'll give you everything you need to know, and then you'll get a good idea of where you can jump in on any particular story. Next, we have Rick and Morty. And Rick and Morty's Rick and Morty. It's dumb, it's silly, it's fun, it's a lot of irreverent humor. It's one of those comics that if you're not looking for a lot of substance, read this. It's not gonna change your life or anything, but you will laugh out loud while you're reading it. it's yeah, I don't know. It's clever. Usually they kind of telegraph the comedy that they're looking for, or the plot, and even whenever they do that, it still works because that's kind of the point. So I don't know if it's like a meta commentary on how everything's so predictable. I don't know, but it's hilarious. Next we have Action Comics, and I've seen a lot of mixed reviews about Bendis's run on Action Comics and Superman. Personally, I'm enjoying Superman a lot more than Action Comics. Um, it used to be broken up to where they were both Superman stories. Um, and then one was kind of more lighthearted, one was more serious. And now, I mean, obviously, this is about Superman, but I would say that he spends at least half of his time doing things as Clark Kent, which is a very interesting dynamic. So you kind of see more of the investigator, you see more of the journalist, you see kind of Superman using that persona to figure out what's going on. Whereas in Superman, it's just Superman shows up and there's a bad thing happening and he fights the guy and whatever. So this is a little more interesting to show that Superman actually has to put in some legwork sometimes to find out. It's almost Superman acting like Batman and kind of being a detective and trying to figure things out. So I mean, it's interesting in that way. Again, it's the thing that throws me off the most is the relationship dynamic between him and Lois and Jonathan Kent and all of that whole family dynamic. It's almost like Bendis went in and said, no, 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 this family's too perfect. Let's mess everything up. And I would understand more if like you had built to that, but to just start with that seemed like a bit much. So that's really my only critique right now. We'll just see how it goes. I'll definitely be picking up the second run. So, I mean, he's got me through 6 issues already. So I'm going to keep picking it up until it just gets to be too much. All right. Next, we have Super Sons, which I think I may have talked about it last time. I'm really worried that once this 12-issue maxi series is over, that we're not getting Super Sons anymore, which this Super Sons is amazing. You have like this mini fake, whatever. I can't think of what it's called. Anyway, you have a mini Joker, you have a mini Lex Luthor, you have a mini Sasquatch, you have a, all of these things that if these kids came from another planet and they watch Earth, and most of the people watch the heroes and they cheer for the heroes and they love the heroes, but this guy is more of a villain lover, which on a whole planet you got to think there's some of them. But yeah, it's just a really interesting story, and it's a fun story, and again, it's probably the end of Super Sons, which really sucks, because Jonathan Kent just showed up in a Superman comic, and he was all, grown up just about, so sad day. Next we have Thor, and Thor just continues to be amazing, especially now that we know that we're leading up to the War of Realms. Also, I know it's a Thor story. This was really a Roz Solomon comic, which is awesome because it's kind of setting up for who's going to be involved and how much they're going to be involved in the whole War of Realms dynamic. It was actually kind of quite a bit of an Avengers story as well. So, I mean, for whatever that's worth. Next, we have Walking Dead. And again, I mean, I don't keep up with any, like, blogs about comics or anything like that, really. But yeah, it almost seems like if everything goes a certain way, within the next 20 or 30 comics, The Walking Dead could be coming to an end. Because the problem is, you just have to keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger with your villains. And in the Walking Dead universe, if it goes down a certain way, then it could be the end. You can just say, oh, now everything's the way it should be. And, or you can just take it all the way up until these, feudal lords are ruling over America like they did back in Japan. And, everybody's butted up against each other. And then we have another world war. I mean, you could take it up as far as you want to post-apocalyptic if you wanted to, but I don't know that Kirkman's going to do that. I also don't know that he's going to end it in 20 or 30 issues. I guess what I'm saying is it's all kind of up in the air, which is a good thing. It makes people more interested. It makes them want to keep reading. So, lastly, we have Return of Wolverine. This is probably the surprise of the century for me that I've enjoyed it so much. I was one of those people that, was real down about it. I was one of those people that thought it was going to be kind of a dumb payoff. I was also one of those people who saw his heat claws right there. And I was one of those people that shit all over those claws too. But yeah, it's been pretty good. I've been pretty excited about it. It's a story that's been told before. He loses his memory, doesn't know what's going on, tries to get him back. Obviously, he's going to get these memories back a lot sooner because you don't want to stretch it out for, 30 years trying to explain his backstory anymore. But yeah, it's been a very good story, and I've been very pleased with it. I think people are starting to move around up in my house now. I can definitely hear the dogs, so I think that means I gotta go. Make sure you hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if you're not subscribed. If you are subscribed but you're not getting notifications, make sure you hit that little bell. Again, go to Kickstarter.com, type in Magnus. We have about 10 days left for the Kickstarter to go. Grab your book. You get a free bookmark because we met our first stretch goal, and you get a free digital copy of the comic book because we hit our second stretch goal. So help us meet our third stretch goal, and then we can take this comic wherever we want. All right, guys. Talk to you later.